This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Like a teeter-totter, the points championship has been swaying back and forth these past few weeks. Our two titans trade the lead once again, and Michel Dudignan is back up front. But today's track, though popular on iRacing with lesser-powered cars, very rarely shows up in this series. Lime Rock Park's tight confines and bumpy surface might act as a natural randomizer for our points race. It'll take incredible commitment and bravery to be fast, and we'll see who's got it as we get ready to watch round 10 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Vandenbelt. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Johan, talk about a track familiar to almost every iRacer. For our audience that hasn't had to run hundreds or even thousands of laps around here, tell us about Lime Rock Park.
Yeah, Lime Rock Park. It's located in Lakeville, Connecticut, and this track was constructed in 1956. It's America's oldest continuously operating road racing venue, and in its 70-year history, Lime Rock Park has hosted a wide scale of racing series, including IMSA, the Pirelli World Challenge, and Can-Am. Now, like you mentioned, Joe, for a big group of road races on iRacing, Lime Rock Park was the first introduction to the surface. And I always felt like it had good reason to, because on this track you have everything. You learn how to take a double apex, when to give up a corner for more momentum for the next one, what to do when your car gets very light over a crest, and how to set yourself up for a tricky overtake on the short straight. Now, all these things you normally learn in slower underpowered cars and not in a 400 horsepower open wheeler. The cars will be very twitchy from the constant barrage of corners taken in lower gears, and because of this, every corner is a potential danger zone. No rest for the wicked is how the saying goes, and that goes double for the drivers today. And to see how that looks like from the driver's point of view, let's hop on board the GSRC Lotus 49 for a lap around Lime Rock Park.
Alright, we're in the GSRC Lotus 49, so let's do a lap around Lime Rock Park. Down into Big Bend, this is pretty much your only good place to pass. Try not to come in too hot though, because once you drift out wide, it's very hard to pull the car back to the racing line. It'll take patience on the throttle, but finally you'll get it to the floor for a brief moment before the left-hander. It's best to take this with a late apex to help you hug the left side. You need that for the widest entry possible into turn 4. It'll be real tempting to get the power down sooner for no-name straight, but if you have to swing the car across too much into the braking for the uphill, you'll be all out of sorts. While the car will compress at the bottom, over the crest you'll catch the slightest bit of air. Then it's a short straight up to West Bend. Getting it tucked down into the groove will help you carry the speed much better. Same deal with diving turn, where it's even more important because of it taking you back onto the front stretch. Smoothly apply the power, but try not to hesitate here. And now hopefully you've finished the lap around Lime Rock Park. Going to be a lot of those laps here around Lime Rock Park. They'll tick off very, very quickly. So knowing that, let's go through the championship. I mentioned it in the intro, looking at the F1 Drivers' Championship. It is swung back to 5 points in favor of Michel Dudignan, complete reverse of last week. You can see they've swapped places there in the minus one. Billy Bob Wright, Dave Price, and Gary Teal have not changed places, but look at Wright and Price. There's only 4 points between them, so that could swap around before the season is done. Teal has some work to do to try to gain on them, though. Let's take a look at the F2 Championship. Johan, what's that status look like?
Well, The whole season, if we're talking about the Formula 2 Championship, we're also starting with the same name every time, David Rossi. He has been leading for, well, since the season began almost after race 1, and he's still on top. Look at the gap that he currently has to P2 Hideki Koifisto, 51 points. And that's not enough to seal the deal for the UK driver. He's still not completely there, but with the lead he has, he surely must be feeling very, very comfortable. Behind him, however, Hideki Koifisto, he is being slightly chased down by Andrew Eng. Last time around, Hideki gained a few points. He distanced himself slightly from the United States driver, but it's still very close for P2. And behind them, it's Francisco Gutierrez. Look at him, gaining 2 places to P5. He was one of the big gainers last time around, and he's closing in on Don Good in front of him.
Also, we've got a Constructors' Championship, which essentially is the various nations that compete. The UK is still in front of France, even though they've lost the lead, with Mick now slipping down to second. In the points, the United States also moves down 1. That's because France only has Dudignon and Busquets, who have contributed points, so they only move up to second place. Finland stays in 4th, and Norway, with Trangrade continuing to put in good results, has moved them into the top 5. What about the race details for today? This, I assume, going to be a little bit of a quick race here at Lime Rock Park. Johan?
Yeah, absolutely. It's round 10 of our 12-round championship. Now, you mentioned quick race. It's going to be a quick one, but also 40 laps. So there's a lot of turns that the drivers have to take, a lot of quick turns in quick succession. Setups are open, points pay out as usual to 25th position.
And of course, we want to give a thank you to iRacing for bringing us on to the iRacing Esports Network for this season. If you've been enjoying this coverage of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series, make sure and subscribe, because you can catch not only this series, but all the World Championship, which has just started on the oval side. Hopefully you caught the Peak Series, Peak Antifreeze Series at Daytona, starting things off. Taking a look at qualifying, we've got most of the laps in, but before we get to that, these cars might have a little bit of damage before this race is over because of the tight confines around here. And well, if you're a car inspector, of course, you want to keep track of all that damage of the cars. And if you do independent vehicle inspection, there's a lot to keep track of. Whether it's an old school pile of paper documents or a computer full of spreadsheets, it can get overwhelming. But we have great news for you. Inspect a Ride is the fastest way to conduct your vehicle inspections and create reports. You can save time, eliminate paper, keep better inspection records, and simplify your life, all from your iPhone, iPad, or Android phone or tablet. You can find out more about this useful app at inspectoride.com/iRacing, where you can even download a free trial to find out if Inspect a Ride is right for you. So check it out. Once again, that address is inspectoride.com/iRacing. That qualifying that we were talking about, Michel Dudignon currently leads it. Most drivers do have their 2 laps in, with them clocking in at just under a minute. Let's see, we've got Gary Teal on screen, and he's just finishing up his 2nd lap here, coming through the diving turn. A 50.4 puts him all the way back in 12th with this large field today. As he crosses the line, it's going to be a 50-point flat, actually, bumping him up to 7th. That is a nice improvement for Gary.
Yeah, you can see that only by winning 0.4 of a second, you immediately gain 5 positions. The gaps between the drivers are very, very close. We're looking at Matt Wright at the moment. He was one of the drivers that was surprising me a little bit in practice before the race, Joe. He was very quick. He was actually leading in practice. He hasn't found the pace yet in this session, though. Coming across the line now to finish his 2nd lap at 50.4. Yes, as well, sitting at P14. Comes across the line. He goes for a 50.1. That puts him in P8. So not the P1 that we saw in practice. Still a very decent qualifying run for Matt.
That looks like that will be everyone. But before we go through the grid, got a couple new names. Some of them not particularly new, but don't show up a lot. Jody Backman should put a little bit of a wrench into things on the points chase. He's up to 4th. He's known for being very fast, typically. We also have drivers such as Caden Bean, who we don't believe we've seen before. Justin Gulai, who sits in 10th. Looks like he's shown up for at least the first time that I can remember. Brad Fenley is a name that we haven't seen here. So, free track as usual. Johan seems to bring in a few new faces.
Yeah, exactly. We're now on board with Luigi Monticelli. Also, one of the names, I don't know if he's actually new, but not of the names that we regularly see here in the Lotus 49. So good to see Luigi on track as well. He's currently sitting in 23rd. But like you say, Joe, a lot of new names. And that's really going to throw in a wrench into the mix, especially with Michel and Mick up front. Yoni just behind them. What will the Finn do in that battle for the championship?
Dave Cohen from Illinois here as well. He's only got one timed lap in, but he doesn't look like he's going to come out to try and take a second one. So that's going to set our grid here today for Lime Rock Park Round 10 in the Grand Prix Legends Series. And Michel Dudignon is going to be on the pole. But it is Ove Trangrade who completes the front row with him. Mick has really got to get off the line well because passing is extremely difficult at this track. He starts from third next to Yoni Backman, who we mentioned before. The Finn starts fourth. Dave Price will be P5 with Rob Olenek next to him in 6th. Gary Teal starts 7th with Matt Wright flanking him. Then it's Marco Kika starting 9th, and round 5 is completed by Justin Gulai.
Driver outside the top 10 is Bruce Nelson. He starts in 11th, just in front of Grant Petullo. Sam Doobie starts in unlucky P13. He's being flanked by the new driver Caden Bind. Daniel Cedro can be found in 15th position, just in front of Andrew Eng. P2 in the Formula 2 category, Hideki Koivisto, he starts in 17th, in front of Francisco Javier Gutierrez. Lucas Silva starts in P19, and he starts on the inside of Brent Fenley. And then there's 4 drivers outside the top 20. Dave Cohen can be found on the inside of row 11, just in front of Gary Anderson. Luigi Monticelli starts in P23, and Dom Good starts 24th after being the only driver that didn't set a qualifying time.
This is going to be fascinating to watch. It has been since 2016 since this series last showed up here, if that tells you anything. So there might be some drivers who are trying this combination for the first time, and it is a relatively big field, so lap traffic could absolutely influence this race. Michel Dudignon up on the pole has got to get himself a good start. And that is something that Mick Claridge is known for, tweaking his gearing, practicing those starts. That could be critical to see if he could get himself not just up into second place, but maybe steal first before the first lap is done. Waiting for just one more car to get out there on the grid. Then we can go racing for round 10 for 40 laps around this track. Just Brad Fenley left to get his car out there. Not sure if maybe he's going to elect to start from the pit lane since it's taken him a while to come out. Don't blame him if that's the case, especially if he's new to the series. Got Gary Anderson blinking quite a bit on the grid, which is not good news as well, especially if you're going to have to lap him. Looks like Brad will not take to the grid. So as the lights come up, green flag is out here in round 10 of the Grand Prix Legends Series. It is a pretty decent start from Dudignon, but Ove Trangrade looking around the outside tries to force the issue. Instead, he finds himself losing that spot as Mick Claridge is deep on the brakes into Big Bend. Everybody trying to sort themselves out as it switches back into the left-hander, and it looks clean for now.
Absolutely clean, but it's very close though for P3. Johnny Beckman being put under pressure by Rob Olenek, coming onto the back straight, or no straight that is. Everyone single filing, however, no one side by side. Everyone trying to get back to the racing line for the uphill court.
Is anybody going to lose it on this first time through? Everybody, it looks like even before they get to it, we got somebody off.
Andrew Eng spun it around in that corner. He hit the wall, not very hard. I think that he can continue. He seems to be the only driver that couldn't put it straight there.
Gutierrez as well found himself going off. You could see him heading to the inside. And then we had a car that hit the wall before they even got to the corner. There's Eng sliding off to the grass on the inside of the corner as well.
I think that car that we saw going off earlier was Grant Petullo. He's currently sitting in the pits, however. Now going back to the lead battle, Mick Claridge is in P2. He's putting pressure on Michel Dudignon, but like you mentioned, Joe, it's so difficult to find a pass here. Both cars jumping as they come over the crest there. braking for West Bend. There's not a lot of distance between the two cars. 3-4 car lengths. You need a good run out of this. A good run and a lot of luck to be able to put a move into turn 1.
And I think one of the key things that we saw is that the practice that many of these drivers were in was very cool, and it is extremely hot out on the track right now. So we'll probably see a lot of sliding around as we ride on board with Dudagnon. Look at that, 114 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface.
Absolutely cooking. And that, of course, won't help that it's such a twisty track. The tires will have no room to actually cool themselves down. They will be completely asked to provide grip as much as possible. They're really going to wish the race ends very soon.
Ooh, look at this. Look at this battle that we've got between Olenek, Thiel, and Wright. Olenek recently lost 5th place and has now found himself moving backwards with Gary Thiel all over his gearbox as they come down the diving turn. Marco Kika as well starting to join this train. See if anybody tries for something desperate into Big Bend.
Gary Thiel under braking, race a little bit earlier, stay single file. Now for Rob Olenek, if he fell down a few positions, it's such a momentum track. Once the rhythm is gone in your driving, it's very difficult to get back into that rhythm again, get those quick lap times again. You really get out of the flow very quickly. And you can see that several drivers are just currently trying to overtake him. Behind him, it's Sam Adobe getting by Justin Gulas. That was the right-hander, turn 4.
Ooh, not usual that you see cars manage to get by there. Behind them, a little bit of a checkup from Gulai again as Caden Bean now getting on top of him. Car struggling to find the power off of that crest. That seems to be causing some opportunities as they hit the front stretch once again. Unfortunately, he's not quite close enough. A little bit of a pass behind them, though. That's Daniel Sadro. Oh, not quite effective as Bruce Nelson takes the apex. Into the left-hander once again. They're coming together. Very different from what we've been seeing up at the front. Oh, we've had a car off at the back. Don Good. This was a diving turn. He was trying to make a pass on the flashing car of Anderson and fortunately went way wide, lost control. And thankfully, it was pretty slow. Usually it's lights out if you go off at this corner.
Yeah, luckily, exactly what you tried, what you said. He tried to make the overtake on Gary Anderson. Suddenly, the car blinked back into action. Don Good tried to avoid it and had to turn himself around. Luckily for him, he didn't hit anything. He could continue. But let's go back to the lead battle at the moment. Michel Dudagnon, he's actually distancing himself a little bit from McLaren, as you can see. But look at that purple car behind him. Over Trangerate is now the one putting some pressure on another driver. He is looking to get P2 away from Nick.
Remember, he was on the front row, so he lost a position in that first lap. So we ride on board with the Norwegian. Look at the air that Mick Claridge got as we rode on board. He actually had 2 wheels in the grass over the uphill and somehow held onto it. These guys are wheeling these things.
Absolutely. Well, it doesn't give over Trangerate an opportunity to try and overtake now. But over Trangerate will like seeing that in front of him. He will like seeing McLaren pushing his car to the max, because that means that he is putting him under pressure. Going through Big Bend, different racing lines. Over Trangerate doesn't hit the second apex as well as McLaren does there. Also here, going into the left-hander, different racing lines. Over Trangerate trying a wider line, set himself up maybe to take a little look over No Name straight. It's virtually impossible though with this little right and left-hander there. You have to feather the throttle there to keep your car in a straight line. You can immediately see that as they go over the crest once again, there's no rest, no opportunity to look to the inside.
Look how close that Trangerate is getting. Needs to set himself up out of the diving turn. Does he have the power down soon enough? Not quite. Claridge looking incredibly strong off the exit of that corner. And that's going to deny the opportunity for the number 8 machine. They're starting to stretch away from third, too, so they could battle if they want. It's Yoni Backman sitting in fourth, who's been there since the drop of the green. Got quite a train of cars in the mid-pack, though. This starts with the likes of Marco Kika. Then you've got Sam Doby, Caden Bean, Bruce Nelson, Justin Gulai, and Daniel Sadro going all the way back to 14th place.
Very long train. I just saw, didn't see what happened with him, but an update to Francisco Javier Gutierrez. He was doing very well last time around. This time around is not going well for him. He's sitting in the pits with some repairs, and it looks like it's day over for him.
Fortunate as we ride on board with Daniel Sadro, though. Ooh, a car off up ahead of them. Who is that? That's Sam Doby with a mistake that loses him 10th place to Caden Bean.
Yeah, you can see there in the replay. Look at the left-hand side tires of Sam Doby going through the west bend, through the downhill corner, putting them on the grass and the braking. Now that loses all connection that he had, or grip that he had. That means that he gets past. Oh, Caden Bin, however, got by him. And take a look at Caden Bin. What happens with him going into the left-hander this time around? Because he loses there as well. He just had made an overtake on Sam Doby.
Yeah, looks like in the left-hander he just goes a little bit wide, overcorrects, and that car looking a little bit like a solo cup has a solo incident.
And another solo incident for Sam Doby. He's in the wall, coming over the crest. This time around he couldn't hold his car in the straight line. Still on the replay here, you can see him come over the crest. A very nasty wobble, hard into the barrier. That's race over for Sam.
Very convenient for everybody to have incidents in a line for us, but not convenient for Doby, who has taken it into the pits. Not sure if he's going to be able to get it back out. Meanwhile, this battle for second not going away as Mick Claridge, in usual fashion, having to fend off a fast driver behind him.
It almost seems like every race that Mick Claridge is racing, he just knows exactly how to defend and how to get a good start. And combine those two and you have a battle all race long. And it seems to be shaping up like that once again as they're going through Big Bend. Both drivers throwing the car, leaving the tire marks across the track there in turn 1. All of them is not helping. But this battle, however, Joe, is helping Michel de Leon. Because look at the gap that Michel has built up to Mick Claridge. There's almost 3 seconds between the two. It seems like the Frenchman is just extending it every lap a little bit.
The good news for Mick is that it's only a 5-point difference between first and second place. That he'll lose is a big bobble there that we saw from Ove Trengrade over the crest this time. That cost him just a few feet, but not a whole lot.
He really went flying there with all wheels through the air. Now luckily for Ove Trengrade, he could keep it in a straight line. Didn't spin it around like we saw some other drivers do. And it also doesn't lose him any connection. He can just stay in that battle. But we mentioned it before, it's really waiting for the driver in front to make a big enough mistake so you can find your way by. If you're flawless, it doesn't really matter that much at line block. As long as you're flawless, it still doesn't mean that you can set yourself up easily for an overtake. It's really waiting and be patient until the driver in front does make a mistake.
So we ride on board with Mick Claridge.
Ove Trengrade behind a big mistake. You can immediately see him losing a lot of time. Let's go to that because he almost hung his car into the tire or into the guardrail there, going over the crest. His car got all ways of loose. On board with him. Yeah, look at the hands over that crest.
Wow, inches away from the Armco, and somehow comes away with it. Now, I see a car slow. Oh, it's Gary Anderson. I think he's letting lappers by because of his connection issue, making sure he just gets a gap. Not been a good day for Anderson. And we've got Dave Cohen in. Did Dave have an issue recently? Well, it looks like it was a little bit ago, but it was also on the uphill. That's bit a number of drivers. He did what Ove Trengrade managed to successfully do, did not do what he managed to successfully do and ran into the barrier. Let's jump back to Olenek here, and a little bit of a fight with Dave Price. This is for P5.
Yeah, a bit what we're seeing with the battle for P2 as well. Two drivers that are very close, trying to put the driver in front under pressure, try to force it into a mistake. Rob Olenek is not close enough to really put any pressure and any extra drops of sweat on the forehead of Dave Price at the moment. To find his way, close down the gap a little bit. Another battle that I was seeing a little bit close is the one between Bruce Nelson and Daniel Sadro. That's the battle for P10. Those drivers are a little bit close. Last time around, Bruce Nelson was quite a bit slower than Daniel Cedro, half a second. He is close the gap once again to Daniel Cedro. And this is the battle for the top 10 position, the final position in the top 10.
Cedro's been in a few fights here today. He was stuck in the middle of that train, which looks like it's mostly dispersed. And despite all the laps that you've watched, 15 in, we're not even halfway through this race at this point. You've got a little ways to go. Cedro seems to have some speed. Look at him stretch away from Snelson now. I wonder if maybe it was a case of just Cedro recently overtook Snelson and is starting to pull away now.
That could very well be a lot of speed difference between them at this moment. Meanwhile, the leaders, they are encountering traffic for the first time. Luigi Monticelli was being overtaken last time around by, well, basically the whole top 4. Now it's Andrew Ng being chased down by Michel Dunion. In front of Andrew Ng, Brett Fenley isn't that far away either. So we have around 16 drivers still on the lead lap, Joe, but all those drivers will be caught very quickly. Now, mind you, this is only a 50-second, less than 50 seconds per lap. You can see in qualifying that the gap between the quickest driver and the slowest driver was, well, a little bit more than 3 seconds. So this whole train of cars, this whole conveyor belt will get quicker and quicker, caught up with the drivers, the traffic in front of them.
Dunion manages to get by Ang through the left-hander. Now Mick Claridge has got him. But is Mick going to catch him in a little bit more of a convenient spot? He might find him on the front stretch and be able to easily go by on a straightaway. Let's see here. Oh, no, he's going to pull over, let him through. Oh, and it compromises the exit of Mick Claridge exactly where he didn't want it. That's going to cost him some time for sure.
I mean, the heart was there, but not exactly the...
Yeah, not the best of places to try and let them through, unfortunately. Oh, as he almost gets run into by Dave Price through the first corner. There's, unfortunately for Ang, there's so few places to hide around here. I guess at some point he does kind of have to let people through in corners.
You kind of cannot find another place to do it. The straights are so short. You kind of have to stand still to leave them by in a good way. Michel Dunion, on the other hand, he is catching up to some traffic now in the form of Brett Fenley going through the last corner. This is a lot better compared to what Mick had last time around. Brett Fenley waited until the exit of that corner to be overtaken. You can see that the gap between Michel Dunion and Mick with that little bit of traffic has increased. 3.3 seconds between them. Now, over Trangrade, after his mistake, he cannot find his way back to the rear of Mick Claridge. That gap has increased to a little bit over 2 seconds.
Looking at 12th place. Whoa, what happened to Goulet? He is off course. And this is in diving turn, a monster accident for him.
He completely lost his car on the way down towards the downhill corner. He was being put under pressure by the car behind, that's Caden Bin, and just under braking got loose. Hard into the tire or into the guardrail there. Now he tries to continue his car, but immediately goes to the pits, knows that it's day over for him.
Yeah, there was no tires where he hit. It was just straight into metal. And this is probably day done for the number 9 car. Meanwhile, looking up at the top, Michel Dunion rifles laps off and is stretched out to 3.7 seconds over Mick Claridge. Now, he has gapped himself to Ove Trangrade. Looks like lap traffic has helped that somewhat. They're taking Brad Fenley another lap down. Instead, now the Finn has come up to the back of Ove Trangrade. Joni Backman challenging for a podium.
Scandinavian battle here, Norway versus Finland. Now Joni Backman has been quicker. Now that might have been because of traffic, but the gap between Joni and Ove has been decreasing little bit by little bit in the last 10 laps. The gap between them now is only 1 second. Can Joni actually close down that gap quick enough to try and move on over Trangrade to really put him under pressure? Half of the race is now completed. There's not a lot between them now, but also not a lot of traffic in front of them. The next lap car is Hideki Koivisto. He's around quarter of a lap in front.
I'm loving the images that we're getting from Dougie's cameras of that crest. I've seen so many cars get 4 wheels off the ground over there. We'll have to do a compilation afterwards or something. It's just incredible. Not often in racing that you see this anymore. right on board with Joni, continuing to give chase on Ove. Hasn't dropped off, but also hasn't closed in a whole lot on the Norwegian. Behind them, ooh, look at how close this is side by side. This is Dave Price and Rob Olenek, and Price is going to come out on top, taking 5th place away.
But Rob Olenek isn't that far behind. Now, this whole move is because of some traffic in the form of Brett Fenley, who was being overtaken last time around. That really set up this whole battle and an overtaking opportunity for the drivers. So going to a replay of that.
Let's see. Looks like Price was already ahead, so offered an opportunity for Olenek to take 5th place away, but not quite there. A little bit of a bobble on the uphill. He gets right up on top of him. Spies a good exit coming out of West Bend. Tries to make the brave move, but not quite brave enough.
They're still very close though, coming through the last corner now, coming over start-finish at this moment. There's only 0.3 of a second between them. Rob Olenek is looking, but he needs once more to maybe utilize a little bit of traffic to find a way by. Just looking, just trying to prod here and there to find a way past Dave Price. In the meantime, Joni Beckman, he's starting to close down the gap to Ove Trangerade. The gap between these two drivers only 0.7 of a second, so that's already 0.3 in the bucket for Joni Beckman. He needs to find a little bit more to try and put this car side by side with Ove Trangerade.
Joni, a driver not afraid to try an aggressive move, and I think that's what he's going to need here to make this overtake. If Trangerade doesn't make a mistake, that is, at least. We've had a number of cars in and out of the pits. Thankfully, I haven't seen it cause any problems down to the first corner yet, but that pit lane dumps you right into the racing line. So drivers, after getting their repairs, will have to really be heads up. Sounds like we got a bit of a battle farther back in the pack that you've been watching, though.
Yeah, it's the one between Luigi Monticelli and Andrew Eng. Ooh, it's a shame that Andrew Eng is actually going into the pits or taking a slow down there, letting some people by. I don't know exactly what happened with Andrew Eng, but those two drivers were very close until we put the camera on them. Then Andrew Eng immediately slowed down to the inside. He got passed by Hideki Corfisto in front of him, so I think it was some lap traffic that he was letting by. But Andrew Eng, he is quicker than Luigi in front of them, and once Luigi gets passed by some lap traffic, I think that Andrew Eng will be once again right over the rear of the Italian.
Maybe just a little too polite from Andrew, trying to slow up a lot to let those cars go by. We're now past halfway through this race, and though much of the field is splitting apart, there are a few battles that persist around the track. 3rd place we talked to you about, with Trangerade and Bachmann fighting for that. Joni has unfortunately lost those 0.3 that he gained. Price and Olenek fighting for 5th is still very close together as well. And then from there, the only other decently close one that we've got is Kika and Sadro fighting for P9.
That's actually a new battle, because Daniel Sadro is a lot quicker than Marco Kika at this point of the race. Last time around 0.6 of a second Daniel Sadro won. So that's quite a big difference at such a short lap time. Now Brett Fenley in front of him, he is being caught right at the wrong moment for Marco Kika, right in the last corner. That will hurt his exit speed a lot. Let's see what the gap is coming over start-finish line between these two drivers. Marco Kika coming over the line doing a 50.5. Daniel Sadro in the meantime 50.2. So again 0.3 of a second advantage for Daniel Sadro. The gap between these two drivers is now under a second. It seems like the Midwest driver is closing down quickly.
Fenley has another problem, and he goes a lap down because of that. Let's see. Looks like he was trying to let some traffic by and unfortunately just spun himself out into the first corner. So as we continue to watch Kika, and Sadro up and over the crest. Kika just holding him at arm's length for the time being, down to complete another lap across the front stretch.
The battle for P15 is heating up again. Almost contact last time around through the right-hander between these two drivers, as Andrew Eng actually has a really right moment trying to let Michel Dudillon back. Once again, we're putting the camera on them, Joe.
You've cursed him.
Yeah, I really cursed him. I don't think we should look at this anymore because once again, immediately let someone by. Now the gap between him and Leclerc is quite big for now. So hopefully for Andrew Ng, he can just focus and try to get by Luigi because he's quite a bit quicker than Luigi. He catches up very quickly once Luigi is also overtaken. It seems like Andrew Ng is just, well, you said it before, very, very polite with the people behind him, trying to lap him.
Meanwhile, we're looking at our leader once again. Michel Dudillon looking to extend his gap over McClaren in the points race here today, as he puts another lap on Anderson. In fact, there's quite a few cars between himself and Claridge at this point. Lap traffic certainly playing a nice little buffer for the Frenchman.
And that was Andrew Ng going by Luigi Monticelli, going over the uphill, over the crest, because Luigi Monticelli got completely caught out by the blinking Gary Anderson in front of him. Had to check up completely, lost all the momentum that he had. And Andrew Ng was the one who chose the outside line and got by.
Yeah, the Italian finally using the traffic to his advantage for once. I guess he was so polite, karma paid him back. There he goes right on by, easily overtaking the number 22.
In the meantime, Joni Backman seems to find more and more pace towards Over Trangrate now trying to find a way by Luigi Monticelli, going towards the uphill. That's really a good line from him, but Joni Backman gets completely caught out there behind the Italian. There has to check up, completely going over the crest. You can see that because this time his car didn't get loose from the ground. Look at the gap in front of him. He loses around a second to Over Trangrate with that second half a second.
Riding on board with the Finn. You can see how much that tack is just having to zip all over the gauge. That is one thing that I found was also tricky. How many gear shifts that you're doing around here as he overtakes more traffic. But the gears are so short. These are already powerful cars and so twitchy. This just exacerbates that from what I found.
Absolutely, it's a very tricky track to drive because of that. In the meantime, the battle is heating up between Marco Kika and Daniel Sedro. That's the battle for P9 we were looking at a little while ago. Well, last time around, Daniel Sedro almost put his car side by side through the last corner. Didn't work out, however. But he's there, he's very close. With only 11 laps to go, Daniel Sedro knows, well, there's basically 11 more chances for an overtake going into Big Bend, following here through the uphill corner. Both getting over the crest, both getting relatively well over the crest. Not a lot of difference between the two drivers through West Bend here. Slightly different exits. Daniel Sedro going a little bit wider. This is where you need a good exit. Marco Kika way more from the apex, and you can see Daniel Sedro immediately winning several car lengths on his rival. Taking a look on the inside, Marco Kika not defending it this time around, braking a little bit later, and that's Daniel Sedro getting P9 there and P1, but Marco Kika is not giving up. He keeps hugging there the outside line, because that outside line will become the inside line as they reach the left-hander. Still side by side, Daniel Sedro completely drifting it around that corner, and that loses him too much because Marco Kika fights back to the P9 position.
Incredible stuff. I didn't think it'd be possible to defend from the outside in Big Bend, but Kika somehow did it and reclaims P9, but Sedro is not done with him. Continues to put the pressure on the Finn and finally backs out of it as they hit West Bend.
I think that's just temporarily, because this is where we started last time around. Daniel Sedro through the last corner, Marco Kika wobbling a little bit. Not as bad as he was last time around. I will doubt Daniel Sedro having an opportunity to take a look on the inside. He tries it at least, but not close enough to actually make a move. He has to go back single file. There's a little bit of traffic in front of them in the form of Gary Anderson. He might play a factor and might be in a little bit of leverage for Sedro to get by.
Wow, Kika's robust defense is making life difficult for Daniel Sedro. Just wants that 9th place, but it unfortunately is not playing into his hands. And all this fighting is allowing Justin Goulet to catch up, but he is a lapped car, so if he catches them, hopefully he doesn't get involved in this. Down through diving turn once again. This is where Sadro has been proving to be very strong, but I think finally Kika's gotten on top of his demons and he gets a good exit out of the final turn, finally.
Yeah, I think this was not necessarily Daniel Sadro having a bad final corner. It was Marco Kika finally having a good final corner. You can immediately see what that does to him, man, because he gaps Daniel Sadro with quite a bit going into turn 1 and, well, basically relieves all the opportunity for a move into turn.
Continues to apply the pressure. Sadro is not going to give up on this until that checkered flag falls up and over the crest again. It's fascinating how, as we have the battle for third closing in on one another between Traingrade and Bachmann, watching those two in the mid-pack come over the crest, I'm seeing a lot less air compared to our leaders. These top cars seem to carry so much more speed over that fifth corner.
Yeah, absolutely. You would almost say that maybe these two drivers are a little bit more conservative than we see, for example, McLaren's doing the way they're getting air. Just try to be a little bit more conservative. Your left is quick, of course, but also a lot more stable going over that very, very tricky bend. Now, we're on board with Johnny Bachmann at the moment. He's following over Traingrade, who's now getting caught up by Brett Fenley in the final corner. Over having a good run through the downhill, over start, finish straight. In the drop, Johnny Bachmann's trying to close down over Traingrade. Like we saw Daniel Sadro, he's too far to try and move going into turn 1. With Traingrade though, look at that car, Joe. He's squirming all over the place, trying to get it slowed down. Johnny Bachmann catches up because of that. Not close enough to try and move in the left-hander.
I would be a little bit nervous if I was Ove Traingrade, because knowing that Yoni is behind me, a fast driver who knows how to overtake, starting to apply the pressure at moments less than a car length back, up and over the crest. Not able to do anything up into West Bend. A big slide, though, into that right-hander from Ove Traingrade. Loses him a hundredth or two, and they come back onto the main straight. But look at him gun it off the corner. Keeps himself safe from the fin.
Like he's hitting the attack mode there over Traingrade. Immediately distancing himself, and that's enough to defend going into turn 1. Johnny Bachmann stays right there, trying to put the pressure on them. Now in front of them, Mick Claris isn't that far away either. Both these drivers, even though they're fighting with each other, even though they're very close, they're actually quicker than Mick Claris. And slowly but steadily catching up to the UK driver. Now with 6 laps to go, I doubt they actually try and move. But Mick Claris knows that if he makes a small mistake, these two drivers will be right on top of him.
Yeah, that mere 2 seconds, certainly not the sort of gap that he wants right now, especially considering his main rival has gotten 8 seconds over him. We watch from Bachmann's view as he continues to try to chase the likes of Traingrade, but he's lost a little bit of ground since we first joined this battle. And though that has gapped up, it is not done that in the battle for P9. Kika and Sadro refuse to peel apart from one another.
And it's especially Daniel Sadro who's abandonment issues, because he really likes to stay close to Marco Kika at this point. Very loose there through the last corner. He's trying it in every possible corner last time around. Cannot find a way by. He of course sees as well, with only 5 laps to go, the chances of an overtake of a P9 position are shrinking. He's trying to do everything to get by. Going through the big bend now. Taking a little look at the inside. He's too far away to try and move there, but Marco Kika very, well, a little bit messy there through the left-hander. That loses him all the momentum over No Name straight. Very close, less than a car length between the two. Daniel Sadro has to check up because they cannot put it side by side through there. Over the upper, over the crest. Look at Daniel Sadro fly there over the crest. Not close enough to try and move into West Bend.
Little bit of desperation starting to show from Daniel Sadro, poking his nose in anywhere, taking risks in places that he wasn't before. Once again, a good exit out of the final corner. He sticks his nose in for what looks like the umpteenth time, but once again, just like before, it's the same story. He can't get to the apex first, and Kika denies him. At some point, will this work before the laps run out?
You start to wonder, but I have to say, this is great racing from both of them. Not only Marco Kika actually being cool enough to defend all these attacks from Daniel Sadro behind him, but also Daniel Sadro not overcommitting to something, like pushing too much of his car, trying a do or die move. Both cars Both drivers are getting everything out of their cars, trying to win a position or defend a position, but not asking too much.
Only 3 laps to go at this point. Time is running out for Sadro to try and get by. Look at Michel Dudignon just fly over that crest. Front wheels rising up. Almost have to get a little bit of a pilot's license around here. Know how these cars act in the air. Back to this battle for third, though. Trangrade and Bachmann. Bachmann backs off slightly. It is back up to 5/10 that he is fallen away from the number 8 car. They'll have to regroup and find some opportunities because now it is down to 2 laps to go for them.
The gap between them grows slightly. The gap between Daniel Sedro and Marco Kika is shrinking, it almost seems like. Daniel Sedro had a little look going to the uphill corner. Didn't manage to make it stick now, but going through the last corner. This is, well, basically the last time, second to last time. They can try and move. Daniel Sedro not close enough. A little bit of traffic in front of him. But both of the drivers have to take the outside line through the big bend corner. Marcus Kika sliding quite a bit. Dave Cohen and Matt Wright just in front of them as well. They might be a factor in this battle.
And the white flag is now out. Dudignon coming around for the final time with 8 seconds holding station ahead of Mick Claridge, looking to take more points on him here today. I'm keeping an eye on the other battles as we watch this number 1 take what is effectively a victory lap here today at Lime Rock Park. It's been a long time since these cars have visited, but boy, are they putting on a good show, and Michel Dudignon showing you how to race around this track with aplomb. 1 more corner to go for the Frenchman down through the diving turn. Coming across the line, it's yet another victory for the number 1 car here at Lime Rock Park. Claridge going to take second. What about Ove Trangrade and Yoni Bachmann? Yoni trying to see if he can do anything, but no, he's not going to get a podium on his return as Trangrade takes third.
Let's go back to the PA battle. Marco Kika is feeling every kind of pressure now behind him. Daniel Sedder trying a move over No Name Straight. He cannot find a way past over the uphill section, over the crest, looking to the inside. Getting a little bit loose there. Cannot put his car side by side. He needs to put it one side by side to try and move. 1 corner to go. The west bend. Very difficult braking here. Both cars need to track out, get as much momentum as they can. Daniel Sedder has a great corner. He immediately takes a look at the inside, but he gets very loose. Barely saves his car. Not enough. Daniel Sedder comes home P10 and Marco Kika brings home P9.
Let's watch that finish once again. Awful, awful close. Tried his best to get that run off the corner, and he did get it. If he hadn't have bobbled, I think maybe he could have snatched that position away. But a car length between them is going to be it at the line. They gained 1 spot at the end because Bruce Nelson had himself a little spin that we're going to see here coming into the first corner, which means he's going to be the last car to finish on the lead lap. Car just got a little too loosey-goosey into the corner, snaps around on him, and the number 11 sees everything facing the wrong way. Beautiful little pirouette, and then he gets back going once again. That's going to take us to a break, of course, here on the Global Sim Racing channel. And we're not done with the broadcast yet, though, because here on IESN, we'll have the official results as well as driver interviews. Stick around, though, because on screen, you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Lime Rock Park. We just watched round 10 in the Grand Prix Legend Series. These Lotus 49 cars literally catching some air here at this short little track. And it was Michel Dudignon who was flying high as he takes another win and increases his points gap over Mick Claridge, who did minimize the damage with second place, but it was distant with 8 seconds between them at the line. Ove Trangerade was a lot closer for that third place. He managed to get the podium, but Joni Backman, who returns once again to fight in this Lotus 49, takes fourth, with Dave Price rounding out your top five. Rob Olenek, a little bit of a mistake, cost him earlier in the race. He slips back down to where he started in 6th position. Then it's Gary Teal taking P7, followed by Matt Wright in 8th. 9th goes to Marco Kika, who just barely beat out Daniel Sadro. There was about 2/10 between them at the line. Sadro rounds out your top 10.
Last driver on the lead lap, Bruce Nelson, he's classified in P11. Hideki Corfisto winning 5 positions. Comes home in P12, 1 lap down. Brett Fenley, he's one of our 2 hard chargers today. Brett won 7 positions during the race. Great run from him from P20. 13th in the end, and P14. Luigi Monticelli, he's the other hard charger. He won 8 positions in the race. Started in P23, coming home in P15. Well done by him. Justin Goulet, he comes home P16 in front of Gary Anderson and Caden Beadman. There's a few drivers that basically had to stay in the pits for a while, get some repairs done. Dave Cohen classified P19. Sam Doby is the last driver in the top 20, and then outside of the top 20 we can find Lucas Silva, Don Good, Francisco Javier Gutierrez, and Grant Petullo. He is classified in P24.
Had a lot of attrition here today. We didn't really mention that as a storyline, but it certainly affected the results out there. No attrition for Mick Claridge, though, who manages to take P2. Mick didn't seem like he had a whole lot to battle with throughout the race. So talk to us a little bit about the track itself. We saw both you and Michel and Ove getting monstrous amounts of air on the uphill. I mean, how do you deal with the car getting air? Is there a method to try and managing to float it correctly?
Oh yeah, there totally is 100%. Yeah, as you turn right into the dip of the hill, you've got to have your foot down hard, and then as the car goes light off the brow of the hill, you just got to lift off. If you keep your foot down, the back will just go down and the front will lift up. But yeah, it's a bit of a lottery whether the car sort of flies straight. You know, sometimes it can land on the left wheels, and that's when you normally get this big slide going on. You know, so yeah, it's a bit scary sometimes.
So this track hasn't shown up since, I believe it was 2016. It's been a while. Do you think this one should show up more? It seemed like it had really good attendance. I'm guessing due to being a free track.
Yeah, that's what it's probably why it is. Yeah. Yeah, we should have it again, and we should put it earlier on in the season, to get more people in the car. And then if that happens, then they normally stay, or, if they could stay after that, it's perfect, But yeah, I reckon this should be on the schedule every time, and early, along with Watkins Glen.
Mick, congratulations also from me for getting P2 in the end. Now, I was wondering, we were mentioning there was a lot of attrition in the race. Several drivers had to stay in the pits to get repairs done, but even despite that, there was a lot of traffic out there. How difficult was it to get by other drivers out here? Because it's such a narrow and short track with short straight.
1 second. I've just been handed a letter from Tony Gardner, president of iRacing. He says that Michel's account was used by iRacing today for AI training. They set it on 104%, and they're going to use it next week as well.
that explains a lot. Then how are you going to compete with that?
Yeah, no, he was on fire today, man. He's been on fire all week. He's been so fast all week, and he let me set up and everything, and I couldn't even get it around the track. It was just insane how fast he was this week. But your question, yeah, yeah, a lot of attrition. Yeah, it's a real tough track, and I can't remember your question.
Now, how difficult is it to find your way by the traffic here? Because it's such a short track with a lot of speed difference between the drivers. Was it extra difficult here to find your way by?
You know what? The back markers were brilliant today. I couldn't fault anyone. They got same with the other race yesterday at 11:30 last night. everyone was perfect. They just got out of the way so well, and no one made it hard for me at all. Hats off to all of them. Excellent.
Well, one last question for you, because we were talking about how we always get to talk to you, but we hardly ever, well, we never get to talk to Michelle. We found out that Johan is good enough to be dangerous with a little bit of French. I think you could sway Michelle to come in and give a little interview in French post-race in the coming weeks.
I should try. That's all I'm going to say, mate. I'm pretty good mates with Michelle, as you know. We send each other a lot of messages and have a good old chat on the in the practice servers, and I understand why he doesn't want to do interviews and stuff, and that's fair enough, But I will try, mate. I will try.
I think Johan's ready to throttle my neck after that one. So We'll see if this actually happens or not. But congratulations on second place, and we'll see you in a week's time, hopefully.
Yeah, I'll be there. Cheers, guys.
All right, that will bring us to closing here. We want to give a thank you again to Inspector Ride, of course. And we mentioned that if you want to get a free download from them, they have a free trial ready to be grabbed at inspectorride.com/iRacing. And again, that will help you if you do any sort of car inspection. And that's not even with a large amount of cars. If it's small amount of cars at a time, this is perfect for you to try and keep track of all the paperwork that you need and get rid of that paperwork, all make it digital. Of course, we also want to mention a big thank you to iRacing for bringing us on to IESN. We highly encourage you to subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network so you can catch not only the official World Championship races, but all kinds of private leagues and official racing, like we cover here with the Lotus 49s. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts. You can find them listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Johan, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about how to speak, as well about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you head on over to our YouTube page, we've got a big red button that says subscribe so you can not miss a moment here on GSRC as well. Next race, we're going over to Belgium, a completely different track, very long, very fast at Spa. That'll be Saturday, February 23rd at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.